Welcome to the Limitless Potential podcast, where together we will dive into the personal, business, and career-rich tips, techniques, stories, and experiences of some incredibly successful and inspirational people, each with their own perspectives and journeys, and each with golden nuggets of wisdom which might just change your life. I'm Tracy Stone, and I'm a master trainer in a number of career supercharging techniques, a transformational coach, international best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and a woman discovering and evolving my very own limitless potential day by day.
I went to yoga and one you're going to stand up on your stage.
Celebrate yourself.
Spiritual things are very, very second and her.
And so once a week, each of you take.
Now I got that message and I see this happening many times again, I see it in a positive way.
Hi, and welcome back for another episode of Limitless Potential. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Simon Suresh, who just happens to be my better half, my other half, and the person I share my life with. Simon is the founder and CEO of Malaysia, who joins us today from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Simon is a lawyer of 20 years standing, and he lives in the United Kingdom, but also shares his time in Malaysia. And he grew up there in Kuala Lumpur and is the eldest of 5 siblings. Simon's entrepreneurial streak led him over the years to establish a number of unique businesses and societies. He drafted Malaysia's very first tourist bus guide in 1993. He set up Malaysia's first and largest single-series classic car club in 1996, which is still going strong today. Then he went on to develop an innovative pocket PC designed for lawyers in 2000. Simon's work experience has taken him from working in the oil palm plantations in Malaysia to working as a salesman and into the dizzying heights of international corporate law. Today, Simon runs omalaysia.com, which is the largest Malaysian export marketplace to the UK. And its main aim is to introduce Malaysian food and culture to the European market while helping Malaysian micro and small entrepreneurs discover the export market. And he's here with us today to talk about his journey and how he taps into his very own limitless potential. Welcome, Simon, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited for this one.
Hello there. Hi. Happy to be here.
So, as we always do on Limitless Potential podcast, we like to share the journey that people have been on. And I know your journey very well. And I couldn't be more excited to be able to share with our listeners such an incredibly rich and diverse dichotomy of how somebody has gone through life. You've had many lives in your one life, really. So let's share a little bit of that journey and inspire people of that journey. So let's go back to the beginning, if you will, Simon, and tell us what life was like for you growing up in Malaysia.
Yeah, thank you. Life in Malaysia. We came from an extremely middle-class family. Mom and dad were government servants. But as in all things in life, it became complicated when my dad kind of lost his way. And this put the rest of the family in a bit of difficulty, a lot of difficulty. Mom had five children to look after, and we found ourselves without a home. We found ourselves with extremely little money, and it's hard enough, being in that position without children. But can you imagine if you have 5 little ones and you find yourself with nothing but debt and no home? It was a difficult time.
Very hard then for you also as the oldest sibling, so the oldest of 5 boys. How was
Yeah,
that for you? Well, how did that change your childhood?
it it matures you very quickly. You learn to tap into yourself to find solutions, even when you don't understand the rules. If that makes sense, you're driven to try and make sense of things, not just for yourself, but for everyone else around you, because everyone's younger and they need your help. And it, yeah, it matured me extremely quickly. You learn to cook, you learn to no, I wouldn't worry about cleaning. For instance, I learned to bake when I was 12, 13. And I was selling cakes and pies in school. Now, this would not be odd if my mother baked, but my mother can't bake. So it's about trying to figure out what you can do with 2 ringgit or 40 pence, and seeing whether you can buy flour with it, and what can you do, because when you're a child, you have to remember your resources are extremely limited, and your opportunities are even more limited. And this, I suppose, forces a certain type of creativity on people in these situations. So I found myself having to become extremely practical and practical about situations. You need to find money for the family. You need to make sure that everyone's kind of looked after, and we didn't have paper rounds and things like that. I did try and work in a grocery store, a tiny little, tiny hovel of a grocery store, like Arkwright's, open all hours, but it was even smaller than that. And I lasted a full day, and that was the end of it. I think I was 9. It was just too much for me.
You were 9 years old trying to find a job.
I was worried. I was extremely worried from the time I was 9. I kept asking, I remember I kept asking my parents, what do I need to do to earn money? I'm really worried. I was a child that was extremely worried about things. What do I need to do? And they didn't understand the question, because they came out of school and they found a government job. I said, what do you mean, assistant? What do I need to do? What do I have to study? And nobody could give me an answer. And it was extremely troubling, because I kept wanting to know, what do I need to do to become a reasonable success in life? And again, it's when your resources are limited, and information is a resource as well, it limits your opportunities automatically.
So I know you also had a very interesting journey through school. You have very strong connections still with your school years and with your school friends. So tell me, as a young man who was growing up the oldest of the 5 siblings there, difficulty at home, but you had this whole school environment as well. What was that like?
Yeah, well, we came from I wouldn't say it's a middle class school. It was slightly above middle class, and when you find yourself through for one reason or another without any money, it's very difficult, because you've got to keep up with your school friends, and you spend so school life was about hiding how poor you were. It's ridiculous. Let's go for the simple things, like let's go for lunch. You can't afford lunch. But I had great teachers, like wonderful teachers and wonderful friends, and I couldn't have asked for more. I was given an opportunity to pursue my passions, and I became a school prefect, and I didn't let anything stop me. The opportunities are so far and few between on earth, that when you spend your time complaining, you just forget to look for the opportunities. And I think I've spent my life just looking at opportunities.
Yeah, you certainly have. And I love that you were the school prefect, and I know you have many interesting adventures in school. Do you have any of those school adventures that you'd love to recount?
No, not particularly. Might embarrass a few people too much. No. Life was interesting as a prefect. I remember there was a senior prefect who was training me, and he said, "Listen, our job is to stop everyone who is coming up from the canteen, the school canteen, onto the school field. We don't want them eating in the school field. There's a canteen for it. So just stop them." Okay. I said, "I got it. You don't have to say more." So everyone who came up to me with their plate of food, trying to go and sit under a tree or somewhere else. I would say, "I'm sorry, you can't go through." And they said, "What do you mean I can't go through? I've been going through all my, diet." I said, "No, you can't eat in the field. The senior guy has told me not to let you." He says, "Call him here." So I had to call the senior prefect, and the senior prefect explained to them, "I'm so sorry, I haven't explained to him the rules." And I don't know why I never found this out. But apparently there was a toll. You had to give, the senior prefect would take a couple of mouthfuls of food from the plate of the guy that's going to go past him. He said, "That's what we do." He says, "What do you mean? We eat their food?" "Yeah, well, it's just a field." It's so funny. That's very funny. I didn't. I just had trouble with this very creative solution. It was a great mentor prefect. It was great. I mean, I didn't do what he did, but he always looked out for me.
That's amazing. I love that. That sounds like exactly the kind of antic that my dad probably would have done in school.
Oh yeah, and you are very, very possible. Yes, that would be Bob. Yes.
You're still, what I love also is that you're still in touch with a lot of your school friends. Now,
Totally, yeah.
for a lot of people who have risen up through the career ranks, have these hugely successful careers that we're going to get into, and have moved countries as you have done, and you've worked all over the world as well, it's quite easy to lose contact with your beginnings.
Yeah.
Having done that, how have you maintained those connections to your grassroots and to your original childhood friends?
I think it comes down to I think it's an Asian proverb I once read, that you will always die within a mile of where you were born, and it's a figurative proverb. You always die within a mile, meaning as time goes by, people kind of return to where they were from in a strange sort of way, because their parents might be old, or there's always some other reason. No matter where they were in the world, I've seen this true of all my friends. They've lived in all of different countries all over the world, and you find them. What are you doing here again? So one of the reasons I've kept in touch was because everyone's like in the same area. You'd walk to the shops and you, hello, and the cars and the traffic lights, and there's a friend crossing the street. So and you have to admit, social media and things like WhatsApp have been extremely it has promoted this closeness. I don't think text would have worked in the same way, but WhatsApp groups and things like this it's brilliant. It's just a brilliant way to keep in touch. And once you finished your career, or not finished your career, but once you've settled in your career, you start looking back at the people I suppose you grew up with. So that's yeah. All the guys that I grew up with wonderful, absolutely wonderful crew, and now, now we've all grown up. We find ourselves, we remind ourselves of our younger selves, and that's lovely. That's fantastic. When I was young, when I got my first car, second, the first car got taken away because I couldn't pay for it. But it was 60 quid. I didn't have money. But anyway, an old man came up to me. And said to me, he looked at me and he said, "Never sell your first car." And I thought, one of those wise words of old men and I said, okay. It was a car that I picked up from, literally it was abandoned. I took it and restored it, and it was quite a journey for the car. But now, 30 odd years on with that car, I realize probably why he said it. Whenever I sit in that car and whenever I drive it, I feel young again. I forget I'm old. It's a physical reminder of where you came from and what you were. I completely forget. So, yeah.
It keeps you young. And
Totally. Just like your friends. Your friends keep you young. And if you grew up with them, who better to because you see yourself through others and how they treat you. And I can't, through the years you become very serious, but then you can't be with the people you grew up with, can you? It just is. You're not fooling anyone, Simon. So there's nothing to prove to anyone. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say.
they help to keep us grounded and human.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So what came after school for you, Simon?
Well, my brothers and I wanted to go and study, but everyone and their grandmother reminded us that studying wasn't on the cards for us. We had to go and work because we didn't have it. We didn't have much, and studying costs money. In Malaysia, you probably mortgage your house to send your children overseas. And there were extremely limited options at studying in Malaysia, extremely limited. So studying wasn't on the cards. But because we grew up being extremely driven and creative, we decided that wasn't going to stop us. In fact, it was going to be one of the challenges of our life. I told myself, look, I'm going to be 30, or I'm going to be 40 one day. I'd rather be 30 or 40 with a degree than without it. I'm going to be that age anyway. So why not be that age with something rather than without it? You're going to get that. You're not going to stay here. It's going to progress. And it was a hard slog. It was a hard slog. You work in the day and study at night, and then you don't get through exams, and then you pick yourself up and think of it as a bigger challenge to say, you know what, this is going to make a great story one day. And you know what, here I am telling the story. Yeah.
And it is a great story. So, and you studied law.
I did.
Tell us why you chose law, perhaps, and how that was. And you did have this very, very blended life of having to work your way through studying because it wasn't optional to not do so. So tell us why law, how you found all of that. What was that experience like?
I wish I could tell you I was driven from a young age, but there were only so many courses that were available at that point in time. And there weren't as many options. Like today, you could become a dental engineer for fish that live 40,000 feet under the sea.
Maybe.
Yeah, I bet you there's a job like that out there. Yeah, I just look at their teeth. They've got funny teeth. Be worried about them. Yeah. Yeah, so law was something I could do part-time. and study, and it was part of what I liked doing anyway, reading, and I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to get a degree, but I wanted to be a professional. It didn't really matter whether I was going to be an engineer or an accountant or a doctor. Just needed something. And since my brother put dibs on being a doctor, I decided, well, he's smarter than I was.
So
Yeah.
you studied law, and you moved from studying law as a degree into doing your bar exams, so you could work as a solicitor. How was that experience of doing the bar in Malaysia?
And the bar in Malaysia is a traumatic experience at best, and something that will just break you at worst. It has a pass rate of about 3% for people who sit for it for the first time, and collectively, if you get to sit for it 4 times, and people give up their, whatever they're doing, they just study full time to do the Malaysian bar. It is an extreme experience. I was fortunate, very fortunate, to have gotten through in my first attempt. I was, and I did it part-time. I worked in the day because I couldn't afford not to. I was married, had a child, had a house loan. I believe life is about doing the right thing at the right time. It makes it so much simpler. There's a time for everything. And sometimes when we tap into our spiritual self, we think time is immaterial. We forget that there's an animal part of us, and just like seasons, and just like anything natural, there is a process, and the process is dictated by time. And if we ignore that, thinking, I'm sure I can do this whenever I want, then it's going to get harder, because you're missing out that aspect of it, the following the. So I was driven, extremely driven, to follow those timelines, because I knew the older I got, the harder it was going to be to study. And as I said, it cost an arm and a leg to go to university. Many Malaysian children come back after studying overseas to look after the parents because the house has been mortgaged. So it's I didn't have that problem. I had a different one, which meant you earned and studied. And I'd rather have studied and not gotten through. I was fully aware of the stakes at hand. 97% will not get through. I couldn't live with the regret of not having done it.
Mm. And then tell us, everybody's going to be wondering, did you make it? Did you get there?
Oh yeah, I did, absolutely. I got there. I was your name comes out in the newspapers, and I remember my friend's dad called me up, and he said the night before, I was so extremely stressed that I think I drank a little too much. And I found myself at a kebab van trying to explain to the guy making kebabs about how difficult the exam was. He wasn't interested. He was just nodding his head and being very polite. Anyway, and I got the first phone call in the morning. Oh, your name's in the papers. And that's still an extremely important day for me. The gods were smiling that particular day. It was good. It was good.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
with a 3% pass rate. So what happened next for you? You've passed the bar exams. Now what?
Before that, one of the methods I used to study was we had little notebooks, little notebooks, and I would summarize or distill every chapter into little charts, and I'd draw the charts out, the patterns, because I kind of figured if you don't have to remember you don't remember it as a table. Remember it as a design. And people remember designs. You know what the Mona Lisa looks like. You know what the Eiffel Tower looks like. Why not one of your own creation? And every traffic light I stopped, I'd pull out this little notebook and I'd read it for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. It adds up, and it's constant revision through the day. And I still doubted myself. I still felt I didn't know enough. And it was ridiculous because obviously, you remember the designs. And law, for anyone planning to study, is not difficult. All of us remember stories. Every one of us remembers stories from, Grimm's fairy tales, right down to the Matrix. They're stories. Law is all about cases and their stories. If you take that frightening thing away, it becomes accessible and relatable. So it's all about, finding ways around difficult situations. I have a current philosophy, not current philosophy. It's a philosophy that I ensure all my staff try and take on board. It's every single problem, whether it's hunger, whether it's loss of a job, whether a client is not happy, whatever it is an opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity. It's just that sometimes we're trained to look at it as a problem, but not an opportunity, because you only solve a problem. You never take it as an opportunity. I'll give you an example. Someone kept writing to us at work and saying, "You're not doing this right. You're not doing that right." And it was on social media, and everyone was reading this, and I was going, "Oh God, what do I do here? How is this problem an opportunity?" So what we did was, and of course, my staff was so well-meaning. They said, "No, you've got to go in. You've got to, you just got to go in all guns blazing and take him down." And I said, "Nah." So what are you going to do? So I'm going to hire him, because he had some valid points. And I brought him in, I gave him a 3-month contract, and I said, "Everything you're complaining about, I'd like you to fix it." And he did.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What a perfect solution.
Yeah, but you got to look at it as an opportunity. If I looked at it as just solving the problem, could have been just shouting him down. And where would that have ended? But finding the opportunity in our problem, it's one of the hardest things to do in life. But if you crack that, you're going to get so much value out of life.
I think that's just magic, that it's taking problem solving to a different level. So you've got the problem and you've got the solution, and most people stop at the solution. And I don't want people to misunderstand this, that saying that you're talking about the opportunity in the problem is an entirely different thing to just the solution. There's the problem, there's the solution, and there's what opportunity comes out of it all. It's next level thinking.
It drives you to find a better solution as well.
Love that. So let's go back to when you've done your bar exams.
Right. Yeah.
What did you choose to do next?
Actually, after I think I know where you're going with this. After I finished my degree, I decided to leave the city and go and work in the oil palm plantations. And this particular plantation was 5,732 hectares. I had to memorize everything. It was a completely different life. I had to trade my cell phone for a site. You're waking up at 6 in the morning, and you're working with everything from baboons to snakes it was completely different. But I needed to do it to find out, I'm living in this wonderful country, and it's tropical, and why, and I just drive past these plantations and I don't know anything about it. And to me, it was a great opportunity to just discover that. And It's one of the best experiences in my life. It was my gap year, sort of.
It actually was. That's a great way of putting it. It was
Yeah,
your gap year, and you have
yeah.
so many incredible experiences from that time. One that I would love you to share, if you will, with our listeners is about the train.
Yeah, the train. Um, it's 5:30 in the morning, and everyone comes out to it's roll call. And in the early morning mist, we have empty train, what do you call carriages, empty carriages to carry the fruit from different parts of the plantation. There are tracks running all over the plantation. And sitting on the carriages, I see like a little men. And so I call over the guy who runs everything, and I said, "Excuse me, what's that sitting on the train? Is it? Oh, they're monkeys." It's going, monkeys. Okay. And now you have to understand, I'm from the city, and monkeys appear on National Geographic at the best of times. So I'm seeing the monkeys in the early morning mist, and I'm going, "What are they doing there?" They said, "Oh, sir, they're going to work." I said, "They're going to work? What do you mean?" They said, "Well, the plantation is really large, and they love the fruit, but they don't know where the fruit is ripe. We know. So they kind of figure if they get on the train, we'll take them to where the fruit is ripe." I thought, that's so cool. And they come back with the evening train, just brilliant. Now, I forgot all about this many years later. It was about like, I don't know, 20 years later. I was sitting in a train in London. No, sorry, I was sitting in a train going to my London office, and it was a very important job in a very nice big company, and I was chuffed to bits with myself. I had chuffed to bits. I had new shoes on, I had a lovely jacket, and, I was over the moon. I was sitting there thinking, I'm the bee's knees. And then I don't know what happened. I thought about that time in the plantations, and I started laughing. I thought, I'm just a monkey going to work, aren't I?
A monkey on a train.
Monkey on a train. And I couldn't take myself seriously after that. I just could not take myself seriously. I'd worked so hard to become this corporate lawyer and suited and booted and going to make things happen. And then it just all came down thinking, nah, no, don't worry, monkeys do this. It was very funny. I couldn't take myself seriously. I still took my job very seriously, but I couldn't take me too seriously.
I love that. There's always these amazing things that we learn along life that keep us human, keep us real, bring us back down to earth, no matter what's going on around us.
Yeah, my favorite was in the supermarket car park when I drove in at about 7:30 in the evening. It was a winter's day, I think, and the guy who parked in, I drove in, and the other car was facing me, and he had parked his car, but he had left his lights on. I was thinking, what is it with people? Why can't they turn their lights off? The battery's going to die, and it's going to be difficult for him. And I was just winding myself up more and more and more. And then I said, well, whatever. I turned my car off and turned my lights off, and guess what? The lights in his car disappeared. It was my reflection in his lens. He didn't do anything wrong. I thought to myself, oh my God. Sometimes it's not someone else, it's just me. I really remember things like this because it just makes you sit back and think, hey, maybe it's me.
That's magic. I love that so much. And it's all of these stories and life experiences and the growth that we get out of them That's a huge part of why I knew you needed to be here today to share this journey of yours and all of your stories with people. It's just magic. Thank you. So how did your career start? So you've got your education sorted out against a lot of odds. How does the actual career get going?
Well, to be fair, because I'd been working up to the point I got my bar, I had a fully fledged career in sales, and I had a little translation agency running. I had a bakery. I had a bakery before that. I was very settled, but
This is a lot of things we're glossing over there. So, people are right now thinking, hang on a minute, you had a translation agency, you were a sales executive, you in a different place, and a bakery. What? You're gonna have to explain that for us.
You gotta buy the book. You gotta buy the book. It's coming out soon. After I left school, I went and became, I'm going to take it back. I went and became a salesman because the only job I could get was the recession. And I remember I went for this interview, went late because it was quite far away. And the guy said, no, all the jobs are gone. And I looked at him and I said, I couldn't go back and say I didn't have a job. Mom's waiting. I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And he says, no. He thought I was simple. We don't have a job. I'll see you tomorrow. And he thought, oh God, do I call security? This guy is coming back tomorrow. I said, no, you don't understand. I'll work for free. It's a sales job. Yeah, come on. And I'd walk home. I think it was like 10 kilometers that day. And I got good money and I came back to work. And I really worked hard. I really worked hard at getting all the facts together, creating my little profile. Oh, they gave me a manager. They said, okay, you just take this guy on. He's not going to last 2 days. Anyway, in the first week, I got all my kit together and I asked a friend, can I come and see you and sell some of these products? And they say, yeah, sure, come over. So I went over and I did my spiel, and I was Oscar-winning level performance. I mean, I was so good. And he looked at me and at the end of it, and I said, so, I was a prefect, I was on stage, I had done a lot of things in school, He looked at me and said, Simon. And I said, yes. He said, you're the worst salesman I've ever seen in my life. It is absolutely abysmal. You're really bad, man. I said, what? What? I said, what? And I have to admit, it was hard hearing it. And he wasn't lying. I was quite bad, but I didn't see it. And I went back and I thought about it. And then I found the most negative people I could find. The most negative people, people who never buy anything from you. And I'd go to him and I'd go to these people and say, I want to sell you something. And so they say, we'll never buy it, but you can talk. And what I did was I wanted to find out every objection I could. And I wanted to have something to say to them. We didn't get sales training, if you're wondering. There's no. And I did. I went and sat with him and I said, no, but we have this. He said, yeah, but have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? I was going, oh, this is so good. This is gold. And I wrote it all down, came up with the answers, and long story short, became the top salesman in the company in a few months' time, and they couldn't believe it. The guy who decided to work for no money. Then, they promised me a senior position, but they didn't keep to it. They said, oh, you have to do another 6 months of sales. We can't believe you've done it. And the foolishness of youth. I walked away, and I didn't get another job that good. I had at that point in time 50 people who were my downlines working. It was just mental. Malaysia was going through a massive recession. People couldn't afford to put petrol in their cars. They'd stop the car by the side of the road and walk home. So the motorway, you'd find 3 or 4 cars every day just parked. But I was doing well. Then I heard about my friends who lived in England, and they were writing back, and the parents had money to send them to study, or I had a house at least. And I said, I'm going to give England a shot. And I told my mum, Mum, I'm going to go to England. When she stopped laughing about 10 minutes later, she said, we don't have enough money for just general stuff. What are you talking about, England? So I'm going to do it. And I did. I wrote to an uncle, said I was coming, flew to England with 50 quid in my pocket, and uncle didn't turn up, and there I was alone with not much hope after having done a 28-hour flight and never flown before in winter. I was thinking, how cold could it get? It got cold. But it's a movie on its own. It's an absolute movie on its own. It combines, what's that, Jason Bourne and a lot of other elements. But I didn't give up. I was creative. I managed to find a job. And I managed to send money home, and I managed to save for my education. I came back from England, and I started studying. And I worked as a copywriter in an agency. The bakery was, when I was much younger, when I was in school, the business had grown when I was in school to sell to little stalls and even supermarkets, and I remember my mum coming to school once, and the teachers complimenting her on her cakes and pies, and my mum's just nodding, smiling away. And then when she left the school, she said, what are they talking about? I think they've got me mixed up with someone else. I said, no, I'm making it. You know how to cook? You know how to bake? Yeah, I do. And I was doing it in a friend's house, He was letting me do it. We cooked and baked there. Anyway, so I was in advertising, and then went into software sales, and then got my degree, and then went into other software sales, and then got my bar exam. So it's and a lot of other things happen while this is going on, like the car club, and
Tell us about the car club. It's such an amazing legacy to have, and all started off with one car. So tell us all about that.
Yeah, it's a Volvo Amazon, 1965. Absolutely brilliant car. Left by the side of the road. There was a paint shop, and the paint shop closed, and they sealed the doors, and then the bailiffs came in, but the bailiffs couldn't sell the cars that were inside, and the guy who put the car in just abandoned it. So the bailiffs left the car by the side of the road, and people started coming and taking parts and this and that, and I'd go past this car all the time. And about 2 years later, I decided, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to take the car. And found a mechanic who's a specialist in rebuilding it. I didn't have much money. I had the car towed. And the car was towed. The mechanic shop. And the mechanic said, do you have the keys? I said, no, I don't. And the tow truck guy says, you mean you're not the owner? I was going, well, I am going to find him. And he says, I just stole a car. I said, no, it's been there for 2 years. No one's touched it. He says, oh my God. We left the car. I did find the owner. And that's a funny story, because I kept going back to the area where the car was and said, you know who owns this car? And they said, oh yeah, this guy lives 20 towns away, or 3 hours drive. And I went all over the country trying to find the owner. People just want to see you run about headless chicken. And finally, I went to the road transport department, the DVLA, and they had a record of why didn't I think of this? So I found the owner. It was Sergeant Jerome. He's a sergeant in the police. Went straight to the police station where he was based at, which was on card. And I was looking for him. And they said, we don't have such a person here. We don't have such a person here. And they said, no, I've got his car. I'm going to buy this car from him. He says, no, we don't have such. Wait. There is a very old sergeant here. Maybe he knows. And this old sergeant, I mean, this man was a day short of 800. This man comes out, says there, yeah, what is it? And I said, I'm looking for this particular person, Sergeant Jerome. He says, no, never heard of him. And then he thinks, he said, you know what? That name rings a bell. When I was a new constable in my first year, I knew a man who was about to retire. His name was Jerome. He was stationed here. I'm going, oh my goodness, I'm never going to find this man. He's probably not even alive. And I said, so, sir, where did he live? So I lived in the village in front. There were no villages. There was blocks of apartments. So I go to the apartments. I walk around. There's a little village. I walk around. And it's so hot that day. I cannot explain to you. I suffer from heat stroke. I know. I come from the tropics and suffer from heat stroke. Go figure. It was one of those days. The sun was just beating down. The sand was white sand in front of the houses. And I had driven so far to come and see this man, and I was just at my wit's end. And I didn't know what to do. And the beautiful thing about Malaysians are we're all very friendly. And I just leaned against a post, and somebody came and offered me a glass of water, and I drank it. And I usually I wouldn't take a drink of water from anyone, but I just needed it, and I was about to faint. They said, would you like another glass of water? I said, yes, please. I got another glass of water. Of course, the person giving me these glasses of water, I didn't know, is Sergeant Jerome. This man who I'd been tracking for a year is giving me water, and I'm leaning against his house.
And you don't know who he is, and he doesn't know that you have his car, and he's handing you the water that keeps you upright.
Totally. And I say to him, thank you very much. He says, yep, voice. And I walk away. I've given up. And then I turn back one last time and I said, excuse me. I said, yep. You wouldn't happen to know a Jerome. He says, who's asking? I said, well, I've got his car. What car is that? I said, well, it's a Volvo. He said, I'm Jerome. What else? That just, even now when I tell you the story, I can't believe it. So he signed over the car, and I started a car club, hoping for 10 members. It's massive now. And every year there's huge amounts of charity done. We had brilliant committees of all military and senior police people who come in with their knowledge of organization and SOPs, and they put in place so many elements that made it. I wish I could sit here and say, oh, I was brilliant. No. It was these amazing people that brought it together. I mean, I started it, but they really ran it for all it's worth. And the number of people that domestic violence victims, what you call orphanages, domestic violence shelters, orphanages, senior citizen homes, everyone has received benefits from the club, either in cash or we go in and do something. I mean, I'm so proud of that group of people. And that was, I think it started in 1996. It's now, how many years is it? 20 something years, 26 years. So the club's gone on, and the car's just gotten actually better ever. So
Amazing.
that's
And
yeah,
your
yeah,
original car, and you are member number one of the club.
yeah.
You've got the prestigious. You are a James Bond style 001 member of the club, and
Yeah.
it has done
I'm just a monkey going to work.
still just a monkey going to work as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the club has done so much amazing charitable work in helping people along, but also it's a sight to behold when all of these beautiful old style Volvos, classic cars, drive in a convoy, and people use that for weddings and different events as well, don't they, to have this beautiful spectacle going on around.
I mean, it's just a sight to behold. You know, it's wonderful. And the older the cars get, the more people value them, and people just love them, and children love them, and it all started with a car that was left by the side of the road that I technically, I suppose, stole and bought from a policeman at the end of it.
It's just kismet. And you still have that car and you look after it so well, regardless of how many other cars you've had since. That's still always the original one. I love that so much, and that's part of legacy, isn't it?
It
So
is. It is. I'm hoping it is.
come back into the career then. So you've this incredible journey at such a young age already, and then you begin this amazing corporate lawyer career, but you also were a barrister.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you would share the story about the hitting your head, it brings a
Yes,
bit
I
of
was.
humility into the life of a barrister.
Yes, I was a barrister. I am a barrister, and well, I was practicing back then, and it was a daily slog in court. On that particular day, I had gone to court to ask for another date. The other lawyer said, "Yeah, no problems. You need to get instructions from your client. That's fine." But the judge was in a bit of a mood, and he wanted to just decide on cases. If you were not ready, judgment was going against you, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I couldn't go back to my bosses and say, I couldn't get another date. They'll say, "What do you mean? They already agreed to give you another date." So the judge came out, and there were cases, being slaughtered in front of me. Not prepared. Judgment for the other party. You want to appeal? Go ahead. It was one of those things, and I didn't know what to do, and I came out of the court, and I was just so stressed. And this elderly lawyer came, Sikh lawyer came and said, "What's the problem, young man?" And I said, "Well, this is the situation, sir." And he said, "Okay, I'll tell you what to do." And I'm waiting for some act of some act I don't know about, a rule of court I don't know about. And I said, "When the matter is called, stand up straight, stand up tall." I said, "Yes, I shall." And then bow so deep till your turban touches the table. Now, I don't wear a turban. And I'm thinking, and he says, "No, that's it." I was going, oh dear me, I'm in trouble. So I go back into the courtroom, and my matter is called, and all I can think of, the only advice I got was stand up tall and bow deep. And I stood up and introduced myself, and I bowed to the judge, tall and a deep bow, and I misjudged everything, and my head hit the table. There was a resounding book through the whole entire court, and everyone turned to me. Now, it would have been fine if I'd gotten up, but I was so embarrassed, I was still bent over with my head on the table thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I slowly raised myself. Now the judge is leaning forward and he's saying, "Are you okay, Mr. Suresh?" I said, "I'm fine, my lord." And he says, okay. what are you here for? He's not talking to the other side. He's supposed to talk to the other side. I said, well, I came to get another date. And the other side said yes initially. Now they've changed their mind. They want to give judgment. You mean they promised you that they'd get another date and they've turned back on their word? And then the other side goes, my lord, we want judgment. He said, what do you want, Mr. Suresh? I said, my lord, I'd like 2 weeks to get instructions. And he turned to the other side, and the other side was screaming, saying, oh no, we object. I'll give him 2 months. No, it's fine. 2 weeks is fine. And he looked at me and says, do you need anything else? And I said, no, that's fine, my lord. Okay, sit down. And I'm thinking, what on earth just happened? I hit my head on the table. I came back, it was a different world. And I turned behind me because I felt someone looking at me. And it was an old Sikh lawyer looking at me, nodding sagely, like, I told you so. Funny stories.
That's just beautiful, isn't it? It's just so perfect. And it brings, again, the human element into an environment where that element is very, very lost at times. It's just lovely. I love that story. So do bring us then, Simon, into the corporate career. So corporate law, you moved into that. Why corporate law, and kind of what was that all like for you?
I was in practice in Malaysia. When I came to the UK, I decided not to go back into practice, but move into corporate law. It was more predictable. I had a young daughter to look after. And it was, it was great, you know. I mean, it was beyond my wildest dreams, from a plantation to managing, Europe and China. I was jetting all over the world, signing multi-million-dollar contracts, and it was. It's when you look back to the time where you started, where you were sleeping on the floors of relatives, and it's their lounge, you have to sleep after they go to bed and wake up before they do. And when you go from that to standing, in one of the tallest buildings in Canada, looking out the window, just about to go in and give senior lawyers a briefing on something or other. I remember my German boss came out and he said, we're all waiting for you. What are you doing? I said, no, I'm just admiring the view from here. I can't always be a monkey on a train. Sometimes I am king of the hill.
Love it.
Yeah.
So the corporate career went on for some years.
Yeah, about 15 years. Yeah.
What advice would you give to any law student who is wondering what type of legal career they should go into? Because a lot of people start studying law, but then they think, I don't know what I really want to be, or they have this vision of what law is from TV.
Yeah, lawyers are full of stories, and I'm no exception to it. I had a friend in school who's dying. I mean, this guy was wanting to be a lawyer from the time before he was conceived, and he didn't become one. And I asked him, what happened? You wanted to be a lawyer and you were on track? And he said, yeah, dinner happened. I said, what happened at dinner? He said, after dinner, my dad said, come follow me. I said, and he took me to the city, and he just said, look at the beautiful view. He said, see that building? See the lights on? That's a law firm. He said, it was 10 o'clock at night and the lights were on. I wasn't going to become a lawyer. He said, I wanted the court and this and going to court and making a name. I didn't realize it would stay till 10 o'clock at night. Unfortunately, he didn't tell me that story. It would have made a big difference. Yeah, so the advice I would give is that if you do make it to become a lawyer, and while you're studying, you're going to meet a lot of people who want to be criminal lawyers because they want to fight justice system and all that. And then you get the corporate lawyers who go, I'm going to make lots of money. What I noticed was, at least during my time, the minute they graduated and spent a year in their fields, they swapped. They just swapped. The criminal lawyers became the corporate lawyers, and the corporate lawyers became criminal lawyers. So if you're going into law, there are two types. You either are going to court and become a barrister, for which it's much of a muchness because they're all about the same thing. You must be you must have what do you call it? You got to have I forget the word now. A personality that's outgoing.
The extrovert.
That's the one. Yeah, thank you. I knew it was a new word. So you need to be a bit of an extrovert. But if you want to go into corporate law, you've got to ask yourself what I did. What's going to be big in 20 years? What's going to be big? When I told people I'm going to be a technology lawyer, again, silence in the room, and then, sniggers going, there's no such thing. But I kind of plotted my course 20 years ahead because I knew it was going to be a thing. So don't just go with what's in front of you for the next 5 years. Look 10, 15 years. Try and extrapolate where it's going to be. If you said, I'm going to be a carbon credits lawyer, or I'm going to hydrogen fuel cells, or I'm going to be an interplanetary, what do you call, jurisdictional lawyer, people would laugh at you now. I'll tell you what, when that time comes 15 years from now, you'd be the top of your field.
I love that. And you really did make that choice because it wasn't a thing then. We're talking about you choosing a direction of technology, because when we talk about corporate law, it's not just simply corporate. There are all different types of businesses, and you become a specialist in those types of business. It could be finance, it could be PR, it could be marketing, it could be technology. And technology was not the thing it is today. Back then, was it? People tend to forget.
I think the first PC had come out, I mean, people just wondering what to do with this box. Is it going to be a fad? But I had read the articles. I knew kind of where it was going. I knew what the industry was holding. Like if you told someone you're going to become an AI lawyer, wow, because AI has rules, how does a computer make a decision between this and that? What are the ethics programmed in the computer? Who programs the ethics? Are there a set of universal ethics? Is it all about numbers, an old person with a higher chance of being saved as opposed to a young child? You've seen the iRobot film, and they're all real. Isaac Asimov had it. So I'm not proposing one job or other, and you have to expect it to be hard in the initial years, but you've got to believe in yourself and believe in that area growing, and be bold enough to put yourself out there and say, you know what, I'm interested in this area. I think, I want to learn with someone. I want to do some free work. I'm always impressed with people who come to me and say, look, don't hire me. Don't hire me. I'll work for you for 2 weeks. If you like me, pay me this. I mean, you're already halfway there. You can't actually do it in England because of insurance issues, but in Malaysia, I love people who think like that. Take me for who I am. Let me show you what I can do.
Have a hunger for something.
Totally, absolutely.
So the corporate career, sorry, was there another anecdote? You're thinking of a story there.
Yeah. I know we do well. Now I was thinking of how I decided to study and work, and as a boy, I didn't know what to do, and everyone I went to said just go and work, but I wanted to study. So I needed someone to advise me, and nobody, I mean, seriously, I just didn't have anyone to talk to. And I sat there and I thought and I thought and I thought. And I said, you know what? I'm going to imagine myself 20 years later. I'm going to imagine me 20 years later, me today, now, me, talking to me. And so I went into my head and I said, excuse me, sir. I call me sir. And I said to him, yeah, what do you want? I'm youth. Yeah, I know who you are. What do you want? And he looked so successful. He was dismissive. He was successful, just like I am to me, to my self. You know, I was looking at him, going, "Yeah, don't waste my time. What do you want?" And I said, "I don't know what to do." I said, "What do you want from me? Can you tell me whether?" I needed the question framed correctly. And I said, "What do you want from me?" And the younger me said, I need to know what to do. What do you want? I don't know whether I need to study or just work. He says, what do you want to do? I want to study, but I know I have to work. And I know this future self looked at me, and he looked at me with the eyes of someone looking at an idiot. And he just shook his head. And he said, listen. It's like this. If you want to study, it's okay. If you want to work, it's okay as well. Whatever you choose to do, just do it well. It's okay. I said, really? Yeah. And then he said something that changed my life. He said, but if you believe you're exceptional, you'll do both. Again, it's okay to do one or the other. But if you believe you're exceptional, you'll do both. And I thought for a while. And I said, thank you. He said to me, don't disturb me now, okay? And he left. And that advice stayed with me through, I mean, it's just
That's just wonderful, isn't it? And such perfect advice. And it's truthful, because it would be okay to put all your efforts into studying or all your efforts into working. Yeah. But if you believe you're exceptional, do both.
Do both.
Love it. And you did both.
And I did both.
And you've done both kind of all through your life, because you've never stayed still. So you didn't even stay still in your legal career. You excelled, you did incredible things. You traveled all over the world. You were managing huge deals. You're a very successful corporate lawyer. Then you changed from that. Tell us a bit about that.
I've trained myself to have a talent for opportunity, and I saw an opportunity in the export area, Malaysian products. And I wanted a job that involved me helping the country to introduce it to the rest of the world. And one thing led to another, and we've managed to build up this multi-million-dollar business now. It's just driven by passion and driven by, I love my team sitting down and learning, and for me to share the best of breed processes from around the world. And so we run like a very tight machine here now, but it's driven by the need to do something for Malaysia and to introduce it to the export market. And my job is to, they say the job of a captain of a ship is not to tell people what to do, but to make them yearn for the open ocean, the adventure of the open ocean. So that's my role, to make them feel so proud, you know, to have this opportunity. And we're hoping to do more and more good. We have a number of programs. Like there's one to help women through export in Malaysia. A lot, the COVID really took families down because people lost their jobs, and so we're trying to focus on breaking the bias and seeing what we can do. We just got nominated for an award for that diversity aspect, and we're trying to help. It's called the B40 group in Malaysia, people who earn below a certain limit, and we're trying to give them the confidence to move into business in a safe manner, in a risk mitigated manner, but yet having some of the trainings and teachings of good business, having the structure of good business, but yet giving them the confidence. 90% people know what to do. They know what to do. Inside, people know what to do. They just don't have the confidence.
Love that. And giving people that opportunity from somebody who has built his own confidence and earned it over the years, that helps you to help so many other people to bring their small business out into the world.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
work in progress.
so are you loving life at the moment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every single day. Every single day. Can't wait to wake up. Can't wait to see what's there for me to fix, solve, praise, congratulate, help. Just full of opportunity. It's just perspective.
Amazing. And then just as a parting thought, two things. One, if you could go back from the age you are now, what you know now from the life that you've had, and go back to any age you were before to give a little bit of much needed advice, what age would you go to and what advice would you give?
Oh, I think this is very common to most people, I think at least. I would go to my youngest self possible and say, do you know what? You're on the right track. Don't doubt yourself. What you think is what everyone else is thinking, but they just know how to cover it up. You're fine, but just be braver. Be braver in what you're doing. There's a very good news article I read a long time ago when I was a boy, and I memorized these things. And it was about two 80-year-old men sitting, and the reporter is an 80-year-old guy. He's talking about the dinner party for his friend who's 80. And they're both having whiskeys outside in the veranda, and the family's inside, and there's music and there's party going on. And two old men are sitting there, standing, talking to each other. And one says to the other, "You must be very proud of yourself. Look at what you've achieved. You've got a beautiful wife and children and grandchildren and some even great-grandchildren. You've had an illustrious career in the government. I mean, you've had a wonderful life." The reporter tells the birthday boy. And the birthday boy says, "Yes, that's true. That's true." And the reporter says, "Why? You look a little sad." He says, birthday boy says, "Well, I remember my mother sending me to the shops when I was 7. I remember her sending me, And he said, in a blink of an eye, I'm here standing next to you having a whiskey. Blink of an eye." He said, "I wish I'd taken more chances in life. I wish I'd lived a little more. I wish I'd been braver." And this is from a successful man.
Love it. Very, very nice reminder for everybody. And then a very final little question. If there was a film about your life, who's going to play you?
Me, of course.
You're going to play
No. What's the guy who what's his name? The guy who plays the piano, and he's also an action film actor. Jamie Foxx.
Jamie, Oh my God, I was just thinking Jamie Foxx and I forgot about his musical talent. So I'm wondering, who are you talking about? I was actually thinking Jamie Foxx. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All that swagger.
I love his confidence in where he came from and what he's learned. I spent my life because my dad wasn't around to instruct me, so I went to the nearest source of instruction, which was Bible, Lao Tzu, the Chinese Confucius, and of course the all-time favorite, the Reader's Digest. And I remember whenever I find something that I like, I cut it out and paste it on my wall. And one of the things I took from the Reader's Digest was, to be a success in life, you must have ICC: imagination, courage, and common sense.
It's a thing of beauty, you know, that is just perfection. Imagination, courage, and common sense. It's like a perfect trilogy.
For a young person, young people need to be given confidence, and it's harder than it seems, because there's effort to be put in to give a young person confidence. But it's worth the effort.
Yeah, and it takes effort on both sides. It takes effort of the person conveying the confidence to the young person, and effort of the young person to be receptive and open to the confidence. Lovely, love it. So Jamie Foxx is going to play you in the movie of your life.
Oh, totally.
Got it. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. Who's going to play you?
Thank you.
Who's going to play you?
Who's going to play me? Oh, no, that would be telling. We'll have to figure that one out when we're interviewing me.
I'll do it.
That's a deal. Maybe we'll have to do that sometime then. So, Simon, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your really interesting journey. And I can tell everybody listening that the stories that you've heard today, the anecdotes, the little ditties that we've gone through today are scraping the bottom of the barrel of the stories that Simon has to tell. So anyone who's looking for an incredible dinner speaker or business speaker, Simon is your guy. He will have endless tales to tell. Thank you for sharing with us so openly, and we really appreciate having you here today and sharing your way of tapping into your limitless potential. So thank you for that. And thank you to everybody. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you to everyone for listening in to another episode of Limitless Potential, and we look forward to seeing you next time for another episode, another journey, another story, and plenty more limitless potential. See you then.